Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your guy, the Big Four from the Big Four Sports Podcast. Today, we're gonna get into some stuff, but hope you're having a good day. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and let's get into our topics. All right. So I have some notes written down. I'm gonna base off that. I'm gonna be doing my first ever segment of my show, the Big Four Daily Slate. So I'm gonna be going over what's happened recently, what's happening the current day, and what's going to be coming up. So today, Sunday, August 2nd, 2020, the Big Four Daily Slate includes the Phoenix Suns looking to further their playoff hopes with a win over the Mavericks. Game time at 6 o'clock. The Suns have recently beat the Wizards, and they're in that very close race in the West. They get the 9th seed to play in with the 8th seed. So this would be a big game for the Suns. The Brooklyn Nets defeat the Washington Wizards 118-110. The Celtics avoided the Portland Trail Blazers comeback. Celtics were up by 24 at one point, and they end up winning 128-124. The San Antonio Spurs hold on to help their playoff chances with a win over the Grizzlies 108-106. The Magic hold on to a strong lead against the Kings currently. It's about halftime right now. The Bucks and Rockets will face off tonight after Harden's 49-point game on Friday against the Dallas Mavericks. And it should be a good game. You got the small ball Rockets versus Giannis and the Bucks. We'll see who wins that. I have the Rockets winning. And then that's it for the NBA Daily Slate. Let's get into our MLB Daily Slate for today. The New York Yankees look to further dominance against their rival Red Sox. So the Yankees right now are 6-1. They were one game away from the World Series last year, and they've added pieces. They've got Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Garrett Cole. You've got firepower, and the Red Sox aren't looking very good, so we could see a sweep from the Yankees against the Red Sox. And today, 4 games were postponed due to the safety precautions caused by the virus. We might see MLB shut down. I hope it doesn't shut down because it's always good to have sports open, but I could see a possibility where baseball is just not too safe and it just gets to the point where they're going to have to shut down. But all right, so that's my daily slate. Let's get into the main topic of today, the NFL Top 100 Players Reaction. So this show started, 6 or 7 years ago. I've watched it ever since it started. And at the beginning of the show, they used to be more fair with their ratings. Now, it's a more of biasy, and it depends on who you ask. If you ask a kicker, or an offensive lineman, or a linebacker, or a corner, or a quarterback, running back, depends on position, depends on biasy towards a teammate, or they don't want to pick a rival, or you know what I mean? So, I had a couple of problems with this list this year, and most of the ratings weren't, terrible. I'm going to give it to the NFL, I didn't really, see anything that was a huge attention grab out of this whole list, but here's some things I had a problem with. My number one problem I had, Carson Wentz was not a top 100 NFL player. Crazy. I think Carson Wentz is the most underrated and overhated quarterback that we have in the NFL right now. The kid is special. All right, so he has Deshaun Jackson come back to the Eagles, right? Alshon Jeffrey. They both get hurt in week 2. They're out the rest of the year. Nelson Aguilar is one of the worst receivers I've ever seen in my life with dropping passes. He had a bunch of not nobodies, but a bunch of he had Zach Ertz. That was about it. Not really a lot of receivers that could do anything. You had an all right offensive line. You had running backs in and out of the lineup. You had a shaky defense. And he led them to the playoffs. They went 9-7, and they lost to the Seahawks, but Wentz got hurt in the game. Last year, he had 4,039 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. I think that's amazing with what he had to work with, because if you gave him an offense last year, like the Chiefs or the Saints, he'd have at least 40 touchdowns, in my opinion. So that right there, him not even being 100. You can put him at 100, I'll be upset. He's not even on the list, which is super crazy to me. I know he needs to step up as a leader, and people think that he's not a great leader for the Eagles. I don't care about that. This is who's the best players. It doesn't take into leadership. So if we're talking about best players, Carson Wentz is a top 50 player in the NFL. I don't care what anyone says. All right, with that out of the way. Kyler Murray is ranked number 90. The offensive rookie of the year. 20 touchdowns. Ran for 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. Kyler Murray's special. I've been saying that since the Cardinals drafted him. He won the Heisman at Oklahoma. You knew he was going to be special coming out. And just because he's small, people don't think he's got a great throwing arm. He's got one of the best deep balls in the NFL already. Like, if you watch the tape, a lot of people don't watch Cardinals games because they're not very good, but if you watch the tape, his deep balls to Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk were just spectacular. And he's very quick. He might not be the fastest, like he might not be Lamar Jackson fast, but he's quick. So like he might not be straight line, but running around a defender, there's probably none better than him in the business. So yeah, I think he probably should have been like 70, 71. So I'm not advocating for him to be top 50, but 90 is kind of disrespectful when you have DK Metcalf at 81. And I think DK Metcalf's great, but I don't see how you put him 9 spots over Kyler. Next up, Ryan Tannehill at number 68 kind of made me a little mad because I disagree with that. He played half the year, and he was great half the year. But then what do we see in the playoffs? I take it into playoff consideration. I think playoff football more important than regular season. So while you might think, previous years, Aaron Rodgers was better than Tom Brady. What did he do in the playoffs? All right, Tom Brady did better in the playoffs. He won a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers didn't. Tom Brady had a better year. You know what I mean? So I think putting Ryan Tannehill at 68 is kind of disgraceful because when you look at him in the playoffs, he was just utterly he was a game manager. Hand off to Derrick Henry. Hand off to Derrick Henry. Hand off to Derrick Henry. Throw a pass. It was very like. He reminded me of like a Nick Foles, but not Nick Foles. Like he reminded me of Nick Foles in the regular season, but not in the postseason. I feel like you could put him top 100, but if you can put him top 100, I say like 90, like kind of where Kyler Murray is, because Kyler Murray had a better year than Ryan Tannehill with less to work with. Because the Titans had AJ Brown, Derrick Henry, a great O-line. You know what I mean? Like you got to give credit where credit's due to Kyler Murray. All right, next. Devontae Adams is way too low at number 57. Devontae Adams is a top 4, top 5 receiver, maybe even top 3. To have him at 57, but Chris Godwin way higher than him, I don't like that. I don't think Chris Godwin's not better than Devontae Adams. I don't care if he's getting the ball's thrown from Aaron Rodgers. He makes some spectacular catches, and I don't know. I think 57 is kind of disrespectful for someone like Devontae Adams. And you have Stephon Diggs at 54. I think Devontae Adams is leaps and bounds better than Stephon Diggs. I think Stephon Diggs is an elite receiver. But I think Devontae Adams is a superstar elite receiver. All right, next one. Todd Gurley. How is he even on the list, first of all? He didn't play very well last year. Once he got that injury, and he didn't play well in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, he didn't even do anything last year. Yes, he put up some stats, but they weren't that good of stats. And, all right, you want to put him at number 100? I might be a little upset, but 51? 51. So you're going to tell me he's 39 spots higher than Kyler Murray? I disagree with that so much. I know he's on the list. I love Todd Gurley. I think he, when healthy, is a top 3 running back in the NFL, but right now he's not healthy. He's not healthy, and he didn't play like it last year. You got to be logical. He's not a top 51 player in the NFL right now. All right. Dak Prescott is way too high at 46, and I'm a big Dak Prescott believer, and he's great. But think about this. What did Carson Wentz have to work with last year? Nothing. Zach Ertz and a bunch of nothing. And he led them to the playoffs. Dak Prescott has Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Ezekiel Elliott, one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, one of the better defenses. He didn't even make the playoffs. They didn't even sneak into the playoffs. So, how you can tell me Dak Prescott's better than Carson Wentz? And Carson Wentz not even on the list. So Dak Prescott, in their minds, could be 65 to 70 spots better than Carson Wentz, which is outrageous. It's outrageous, in my opinion. I don't know how you do that. You know what I mean? I don't know how you can sit back, look at what Dak has to work with. Carson Wentz has to work with similar stats. Dak's a little better stat-wise, but with a lot better receivers. So, this is probably the one that made me the most upset. Jimmy Garoppolo at 43. is Jimmy Garoppolo at 43? I don't get that. Jimmy Garoppolo is the definition of the most average quarterback of all time. He's so average. He reminds me of Andy Dalton. Except in San Francisco, he's got great receivers, great running game, and great offensive line. That's the only difference. He's got George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Raheem Mostert, a great offensive line. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see a difference. He reminds me of Andy Dalton. You know, put him at 43. Dak's better than Jimmy. And Carson Wentz is 3 times better than Jimmy Garoppolo, so, you know what I mean? I guess because he led to the Super Bowl, but even then, they threw 8 times against the Packers in the conference championships. Mostert had 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. So how can you say Garoppolo was the main reason? And he overthrew balls in the Super Bowl. He didn't come clutch in the Super Bowl when they needed him most. So I think that's a little unfair to players like Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott. Quentin Nelson is way too low at 29. He's super low at 29. I think a lot of people don't respect his game as much as they should because he's an offensive lineman. But think about this. Andrew Luck, he did retire last year, but Andrew Luck, they drafted Quentin Nelson in 2018. So he played with Nelson for 1 year. In that one season, they looked so much better. Andrew Luck was way healthier. The running game was so much better. Quentin Nelson is a modern day Larry Allen. He's a modern day Larry Allen in my opinion. He is a special talent, and I think people need to realize how great of he's a decade, century, once in a lifetime kind of player because he doesn't give up sacks. He'll pancake your best defender on the line. And I feel like without him, the offensive line is in shambles, dead last. But with him, they're top 10 in the league. So Quentin Nelson at 29, I feel like he should be a top 15, top 10 player, in my opinion, because of what he's done. He helped Andrew Luck so much. I know Andrew Luck retired, but if they had him last year, Andrew Luck, the Colts probably would have gone to the divisional or conference championship game. It's just me. All right. Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack, again, I think people take him for granted. There's so many players that people take for granted. How is he at number 19? He's a top 7, top 8 player in the NFL, top 5. Khalil Mack, and yes, I know if someone's stats don't match up to what their career is like, I don't really buy that because Khalil Mack, just because it's not in the stats, that means people are double and triple teaming him. That means that you have to focus your whole offense. You have to scheme around someone like Khalil Mack. And I feel like he's kind of like a modern day Lawrence Taylor. No one's ever been as dominant as Lawrence Taylor. I think everyone gets that. Lawrence Taylor is the greatest football player, in my opinion, of all time, besides quarterback. I think Lawrence Taylor is the greatest non-quarterback of all time in NFL history. I think it's kind of hard to argue that. No one's that, but Khalil Mack is like a hybrid of that. He's kind of like that. And I feel like when the Bears traded for him and Oakland traded him away, Oakland, their pass rush in 2019 went down. Their pass rush was automatically a lot worse. When the Bears traded for him, in 2018, it got a lot worse. In 2018, when the Bears traded for him, and then this last season, their defense was so good. The pass rush was there. Quarterbacks didn't have as much time as they did previously. So I think Khalil Mack at 19 is a little disrespectful. When you have someone like Travis Kelce at 18, Travis Kelce is awesome, but when you have a player like Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball, I'm trying to take anything away from Kelce, but I'm never going to say Travis Kelce is a better player than Khalil Mack. I'm just not. All right. So next, we have Tom Brady above. Okay. Tom Brady at 14 and Deshaun Watson's at 20. I don't think Tom Brady should have even been a top 25 player on this list. And I know a lot of people could argue, they didn't have weapons, they didn't have this, yada, yada, yada. He's 42. I don't care. He didn't play well. Let's stop making excuses for someone that... And yes, it's amazing he's playing this well at 42. You can give him his credit while putting him at 30. It's still incredible. Most players at 42 wouldn't even be on the list. So we're still giving him high praise at 30. But at 14, that's too high. Too high. Because Deshaun Watson, he's mobile, so he's versatile. He had more passing touchdowns. He had more yards with Bill O'Brien as his coach. I know he had DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, Darren Fells, yada yada. But in my opinion, Deshaun Watson, top 5 quarterback, and right now Tom Brady not a top 5 quarterback. And I'm a Patriots fan. That's coming from me. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback right now. So I think that was a little disrespectful. And next, this is a big one that a lot of people had a problem with. I had a big problem with it. Patrick Mahomes was number 4, and he was not number 1. I think everyone expected, Patrick Mahomes is number 1, unanimous. Okay, who's the 2 through 5? No. He gets announced at number 4, and everyone is going crazy. How is he not number 1? How is he not number 1? I agree. How is he not number 1? Because you could say, Lamar Jackson got number 1, right? He was an MVP and all this. All right, you can make that argument. Then why was Patrick Mahomes number 4 last year on the best players of 2019 when he threw for 50 touchdowns in his first season and won MVP? So that logic doesn't make sense, because if Lamar is the MVP at number 1, why wasn't Mahomes the MVP at number 1 with a better season? I don't want to hear Lamar Jackson, he ran for more. I don't care. Mahomes threw 50 touchdowns. 50. That's the 3rd time in NFL history. Brady threw for 50 and Manning threw for 55. Mahomes, 50 was the 3rd time in history. So I don't want to hear Lamar's their number 1. Lamar was not the number 1 player last year. I'm sorry. He might have been the most... I don't even think he was the most valuable player last year. We'll get into that. All right. So what my top 3 would have been, if I could rearrange it. Number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. Number 2 is Aaron Donald. And number 3 is Russell Wilson. All right, we just went through Mahomes, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. Had a great year last year with injury. Remember that. Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is the best defensive player the NFL has seen since Lawrence Taylor. 100%. I think someone like Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack are super, MVP. I think they should be more in the MVP conversation because they are dependent on themselves. A receiver is dependent on the quarterback to make the throw to them. The quarterback is dependent on the receiver to run the right route and catch the pass and run down the field. The running back is dependent on the quarterback to get the hike, hand them the ball, and their lineman to block for them. Defensive lineman, you're worried about yourself. It's on you to get past the lineman and sack the quarterback. So, what Aaron Donald's done in the last 6-7 years are incredible. I don't think we'll see that for a long time. I don't think we'll ever see that again. From a defensive tackle, remember this, he's a nose. He's like an in the middle defensive lineman. Lawrence Taylor was an outside linebacker. Aaron Donald's in the middle. So he's just a freak of nature, and I think he should be number 2. He was number 3, so not super disrespectful, but you could even put him at number 1, and I will agree with that. Him and Mahomes, you could go back and forth. Number 3, Russell Wilson, the most underrated quarterback. He's starting to get his recognition. Finally, he's been in the league for 9 years, 8 years. Finally getting his recognition. He's a Super Bowl champion. He should have been a 2-time Super Bowl champion, back to back, but they didn't run it on the 1-yard line. Marshawn Lynch. Malcolm Butler gets the pick. Everyone knows that. And without him, I think I made the case for Russell Wilson that should be MVP, because without him, that Seattle team, I think they went 10-6 or 11-5. That team literally goes 4-12, 3-13. They're a bottom of the barrel team, top 5 pick. Without Wilson, 31 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, ran for a good amount of yards, great efficiency. I don't think that Lamar Jackson is better than Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson should have won MVP last year. And I think Lamar is a great player. But if you look at situation-wise too, Russell Wilson's never been put in a great position to succeed on Seahawks. And he has Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. I know that. They added Greg Olsen. But the running backs weren't healthy at the end of the year. So he had to carry the load because they didn't really have a running game. Yes, they had Marshawn, but Marshawn's a little bit older. He's not in the best shape. So they kind of had to rely on the pass, and it was all in his back. The defense wasn't great. They got Jamal Adams. It'll be a lot better. But if you look at Lamar Jackson, he had a top 5. He probably had a top 3 defense. He had Hollywood Brown. He had Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst. He had Mark Ingram. He had a playbook designed just for him by John Harbaugh. A great offensive line. Nothing against Lamar. He did great. But he should have been 2 or 3 in the MVP conversation. It should have been Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, and Christian McCaffrey in the MVP votes, in my opinion. All right, that's going to wrap up the podcast. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. It would mean a lot. We're trying to get to 200 subscribers. This is episode number 1. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be coming out with episode 2 in the near future. Until next time, have a good day.